local storage. You've probably used it already without knowing. For example, when a website remembers that you turned on dark mode, that choice is often saved in local storage. The browser stores something simple like theme equals dark, and the next time the page loads, the site reads it and applies the same setting. No database involved. While this can be implemented in other ways, such as state management, more advanced stuff, this method is one of the simplest. So why does local storage exist? Web pages used to forget everything when you refresh them. Developers had to either send data to the server or use cookies, which were small and a bit annoying to work with. Local storage was added to make things easier. It lets us save small pieces of data directly in the browser, quickly and simply. It's perfect for things like user settings, UI state, and temporary data that doesn't need to be shared with anyone else. In this video, we'll go through local storage step by step. We'll look at real examples, take it slow, and build the code little by little. By the end, local storage won't feel like a mystery. It'll just feel like another useful tool you know when to use. Let's start with something, a function called savename. Right now, you're not remembering anything. You just made space for the idea. Now let's actually remember a name. Here we're calling local storage. Then we use setItem, which is a method that saves something into local storage. SetItem needs two things. The first one is the key, which is like the label or name for what we're saving. Here, the key is name. The second one is the value, which is the actual data we want to store. Here, the value is Linus. So this line is telling the browser to save the value Linus and remember it under the label name so we can get it back later. Refresh the page, close the tab, open it again. The browser still knows the name. Now, real apps don't just save a fixed name. People type their own names or other data, so we need the function to accept a value. We do this by giving the function a parameter called name. Inside the function, we call local storage and use setItem like before. The first thing we pass is the key, which is still name. The second thing we pass is the value, which now comes from the name parameter. This way, whatever the user types gets saved in the browser under the label name. Now, this works for any user. If the user types Linus, that's what gets saved. If they type Alex, the old value gets replaced. Local storage doesn't keep history. It keeps the latest truth. That works fine for saving, but saving something is kind of pointless if you never use it again. So next we need a way to load it and actually use the data. Again, let's create a new function called loadName, which is empty at first. Now let's actually grab the stored value. Inside the function, we call local storage again. This time, we use getItem instead of setItem. GetItem only needs one thing, the key. Here, the key is name. This tells the browser to go look for the value stored under name and give it back to us. Later, we can use that value to show it on the page or do other things with it. At this moment, the browser checks, do I have something stored under the label name? If yes, it gives it back. If not, you get null, which basically means, I don't know anything yet. Now your app can finally act on what it remembered. You're not just storing data for fun anymore. You can grab that saved name and say, hey, welcome back, Linus. You can drop it straight into an input field, so the user doesn't have to type the same thing again. That tiny moment, not asking again, is what makes apps feel smart. It's subtle, but users notice it immediately. Speaking of smart, if you're building anything serious, you know the messy part isn't always the coding. It's the thinking before the code. You open a bunch of tabs. You compare approaches, you test patterns, you sketch ideas in random docs. And a week later, you're trying to remember why you chose one approach over another. That's where Sagekit fits into our workflow. Let's say I'm adding authentication to a SaaS product. Inside Sagekit, I'll research different approaches, outline the architecture, draft the implementation plan with real code blocks, think through middleware structure, database changes, edge cases, and I'll document the trade-offs while they're still fresh in my head. And here's the part that makes it powerful. That same implementation plan doesn't just sit there. I can turn it into internal documentation. I can convert it into a clean README. I can use it as the foundation for a technical blog post. The context compounds. I plan once, and that thinking flows into code, docs, and content without starting from scratch every time. That's the shift. I'm building something, and Sagekit is where the plan, the code structure, and the future content all originate. If you're a developer who cares about clarity before execution, I'd recommend trying Sagekit for your next feature build and seeing how different it feels when your implementation thinking actually has a home. Check out Sagekit below and start your next build from a plan, not from scattered tabs. Now, let's jump back into the video. All right, let's change the scenario a bit. Names are about identity. Now let's talk about preferences. Imagine opening a site at night and it instantly knows you want dark mode. No button, no reminder. It just gets it right. That's local storage doing its quiet work. We create a new function called saveTheme. Same move as before. You're not saving anything yet. Now let's actually lock in a choice. we call local storage set item with the key theme and the value dark. The browser hears, okay, dark it is. I'll remember this. Refresh the page, close the tab, open it again. Still dark. That's the payoff. But users are human. They change their minds. Morning comes. So instead of forcing dark, we make it adaptable. Now the function takes a parameter called theme. Inside it, we still call local storage set item with the key theme, but the value now comes from that parameter. Whatever the user chooses gets saved. Dark mode, light mode, solarized, whatever you dream up later. The browser doesn't care what the value is. It just keeps the last thing the user picked. Now comes the important part. Using that memory when the app starts. We create another function called load theme. Now let's ask the browser what it remembers. Inside load theme, we call get item with the key theme and store the result in a variable called theme. That variable now holds the saved choice, so we can apply it right away. If it's dark, flip on dark styles. If it's light, keep things bright. If it's null, no problem. Maybe it's their first visit, so you use a default. Notice something important here. Local storage never decides anything. It doesn't apply styles. It doesn't guess. And that's the whole magic. Now let's switch to numbers, because this is where people often get confused. Say you're building a simple game and want to save the player's score. You might start with a blank function save score. Then you save a score like this. Looks fine, right? You're storing the number 10. Here's the twist. Local storage can't store numbers, booleans, or objects directly. Everything goes in as a string. So under the hood, what you really saved is 10, the text version. Think of local storage like a notebook. Every key and value is written down as text. It doesn't know 10 is a number unless you tell it later. It's honest, but kind of dumb. It just records what you give it. Now let's load that score back. Then create a constant called score that calls local storage and uses the getItem function to retrieve the stored score. That score variable is now 10, not the number 10. If you try to do math like score plus 5, you'll get 105 instead of 15 because JavaScript is treating it as text. That's not a bug. That's just how this works. If you want a real number again, convert it with number score or parseInt score. So remember this. Local storage stores and returns exactly what you gave it. Once you get that, you can safely use it for scores, settings, and preferences. Now let's level up. What if you want to remember multiple things about a user, like a mini profile? We start with a blank function called save profile. Storing more than one piece of information is just like storing one. You just give each fact its own key. Here, let's set a couple of items in local storage. Notice what just happened. The browser now remembers two separate facts. One key for the name, another key for the theme. Each key is like a labeled slot in a notebook. Let's add one more fact, the last page the user visited. Now we have 3 memory slots. Each key value pair is stored independently. This is powerful because it lets us read or update just what we need without touching the rest. For example, if we want the theme later, we can grab only theme and leave name and last page untouched. Of course, sometimes we need to clean up after ourselves, for example, when a user logs out. You don't always want all of these facts lingering around in the browser. Start small by removing just one piece of information. Let's create a function called logout. Now remove one item. Inside it, we call local storage, and then use the remove item function, passing the name as the value. Here, the browser forgets the name, but keeps the theme and last page. You have full control over what stays and what goes. Want to remove more than one? No problem. Just use another remove item call and specify the key you want to delete. And if you really want to wipe everything, there's the nuclear option, the clear function. This clears all data. It's like shredding the notebook completely. Every key value pair disappears. In short, local storage is flexible. You can store as many separate facts as you want, and you control exactly which ones to read, update, or delete. Think of it as a very honest, very literal assistant. It remembers exactly what you told it, and nothing more. That honesty is what makes it simple and reliable. But here's the important part. It's not secure and it has limits. Everything stored in local storage is fully accessible to JavaScript running on the page. So if malicious code sneaks in, it can be read. Of course, we covered a lot of concepts, which is why we created a PDF version of this video that includes all the tips and tricks for local storage. You can become a Nova Plus member to get access to exclusive content. You can also find all the code snippets in the description on our website, codeslides.dev. And if you're looking for affordable domains, we've partnered with Namecheap, a reliable and affordable domain and hosting provider. Check the link in the description to get some great discounts. Now that we've learned about local storage, We'll continue exploring how middleware works and more, so stay tuned. That's it for now, Novas. Thank you for watching.